Michigan basketball?
Yep. Play with Zach Novak.
All right.
Shooter from Indiana. He just tweeted out the following. Okay, so Moe Wagner told me to take a poll, and then I will send in the results along with my recommendation. My recommendation can be bought for the right price along with altering the poll, but don't be cheap. Here is what you can vote for. GoPro. My opinion doesn't matter. No, really it doesn't. Or ship us German wheat beer. So which should we vote for here?
Yeah, I'll leave that to you.
Ship us German wheat beer. Ship us German wheat beer has 52% of the vote. 20%, 26% say my opinion doesn't matter. 15% say GoPro. 7% say no, it really doesn't. So there you go.
We're getting beer.
We're getting beer.
Yes.
52%. Did you vote, Kang?
Oh, yeah.
What'd you vote for?
I want the beer, man. Come on. Who doesn't want the beer?
Yeah.
Those are our options?
Yeah, those
beer.
are our options. Go for the beer.
You like German beer? Das Boot? Do we get in the Das Boot?
Let me put it to you like this. I like German beer better than no beer, but as a general rule, no.
What about the German version of Bud Light?
Is there?
Well, they have lower alcohol beers.
Mm-hmm.
I liked German beer when I was in Germany. I don't like an imported German beer.
You want it straight from the source, like right?
Well, I was very young and impressionable at the time.
That's the authentic, only the real stuff.
I remember. Well, the problem is it feels like it maybe it's just too cliche and old to say, keep saying this, but it's always tasted skunked when you got a German beer here.
Okay.
So I've never been a fan. It just never tasted the same. But I remember being at the Hofbrauhaus in Munich.
Yeah, you do.
And enjoying the hell out of the beer there.
How old were you?
16. Really enjoyed it. And to this day, one of the top 3, if not the number 1 best beer I've ever had in my life was at the bottom of the ski hill in Innsbruck, Austria.
Yeah.
It was called Kaiser beer. And my buddy and I, we split a beer, and we're like, this is the greatest beer I've ever had in my life. It was smooth, it was delicious, perfect. And years later, when he was at Syracuse, and he found some place out there that had beers of the world, and he found Kaiser beer. He was so excited, brought it back home with him. He's, dude, I found Kaiser beer. Like, yes, let's go.
Yep.
And it could not have been worse.
You know what's funny about that is I've done that too. And it's usually you're on vacation and you're like, this beer's fantastic.
Yeah.
It kind of happened to me recently.
Uh-oh.
And it was with a beer that you and I loved.
Oh.
Do you remember we were in New Orleans?
Yes.
And we walked to
We had Abita.
Yes. What was the place we walked to for lunch? We were there for the Super Bowl.
Oh, I forget the place. It was a place where they're famous for po' boys in New Orleans.
I keep wanting to say Telway. It's not Telway.
Something like
It's
that.
something like that. And we had a couple mile walk. It was quite a hike.
A couple. It was your phone said that it was like 1.8 miles, and I was like, yeah, I like to walk, no problem. It was like 4 miles to get there, and walking in New Orleans, none of the streets are level because everything is pitched to the side because they're below sea level. So any kind of precipitation they get, they have to drain it somehow. So everything is on pitch. The sidewalks are on a pitch, and a severe pitch. That walk was the most punishing walk I've ever been in my life. The walking there didn't feel so bad. Walking back was so damn painful. I had to remember. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. We need to grab one of these buses or whatever. We got on one of the buses that they had, took us back, and then we found out that our dinner had been pushed up another hour. But it was neither here nor there.
Yeah,
I couldn't walk that. Like, I remember waking up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and I almost fell off of my bed because I couldn't support myself. My ankles were so ruined.
Well, on our way back, we stopped at this little house that was a bar.
Yes.
It doubled as a bar, kind of like the things you see in Pittsburgh all the time, where it's just a house with a bar in it, and you see the Yingling sign in the window, and you're like, okay, apparently this is a bar. So we walked in there, and we got the Abita Purple Haze.
Yeah.
Loved it.
I've got some at the house.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Bought it the other day. Not so much.
No?
No.
Maybe it was out of season.
Maybe it was. I don't know what the problem was. Maybe
Well, they
got a
are
bad
seasonal.
batch.
They've got, I've enjoyed all the Abitas they had. The Abita Amber, the Purple Haze, and they've got a strawberry one too, which is pretty good. But
back to the original question. Apparently, we're all going to have Moe Wagner sending us German beer. And Stu Douglas tweeting out a poll. What should Moe do? Send us German beer is winning. But my German beer story was I was at Epcot. And you've been to Epcot, right?
no.
Okay. Epcot has, it's basically a giant circle around a lake, and there's different countries represented. And each country has a typical of the architecture and some of their best food. Like you go to Canada and you get poutine and Molson. But there's also, here's how you make maple syrup, and some of those countries have rides and whatever. So I was there with my family and friends of ours that live down there, and we're walking around. We have dinner reservations in Germany, which, apparently we made them late, and Germany always has openings because it isn't as popular as Japan and Mexico and China, whatever. So we have dinner reservations in Germany. But it's been a long day, man, and we've been getting after it. And we sit down to order, and they're like, what would you like to drink? And I said, well, what do you got in the beer? And blah, 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 the Hefeweizen or whatever it was. And I said, I'll have that. And I said, but what size does this come as you? Well, they only come in the 44-ounce Stein. And I'm like, oh, wow, okay.
It's a big one.
Yep. And then my buddy Chris says, yeah, I got to pass on that. I'll have sweet tea.
Oh.
And she goes, we don't have sweet tea. And he goes, I'll take the 44-ounce Hefeweizen. Yeah. The kids are doing the chicken dance, and they got people running around on lederhosen.
I remember at the bar one time I asked, what kind of beers do you have on tap? And they list off all the beers, and my response to that afterwards was, I'll have a lemonade.
Yeah.
A lemonade? You just have to, you get in the beer I was looking for, so I just have a lemonade.
Okay, so comments made by Matt Patricia. I want your take. Is it possible that the Lions take a running back in the draft? Is that even possible? Yes. Is it likely they take a running back in the draft? Yes. Story in the Detroit Free Press about the running back situation moving forward under Matt Patricia. Matt Miller at this member summit they did the other day that we've quoted a few things from. Dan Miller, is talking to Matt Patricia, and Dan Miller says, hey, it's going to be tough for fantasy owners to know which running back you're going to give the ball to because of what happened in New England. You start looking at your backfield situation. Here's what Patricia says. That sounds like a good thing, right? I mean, look, anything that we do, we certainly don't want to give the opponents any advantage. So we're always going to try and work harder than they are. We're always going to try and come up with a scheme that gives us an advantage and put our players in position to make plays. It's not necessarily the X's and O's. It's the X's and who's the O and what the matchup is and how does that work. It's something we're definitely trying to do. The story goes on to say Patricia's already on record saying he favors a running back by committee approach. Now, if the Lions invest in a first-round pick and go after Darius Geis or Sony Michel, do you envision running back by committee, or do you think that guy deserves 20, 25 carries a game? And if he can't handle 25 carries a game, or his talent doesn't warrant 20, 25 carries a game, do you even take a running back that high?
Well, I go back to this. I've said this before on a number of occasions. When it comes to the running backs, it's just a misnomer that running backs carry the ball 20 times a game. They don't. You look at last year, one running back in the league carried it 20 times a game, Le'Veon Bell, and it was right at 20 times. He carried it 321 times in the season. The next highest running back was LaShawn McCoy at 287 attempts. Okay, Melvin Gordon, 284. Todd Gurley, 279. The league has become running back by committee. There's literally one guy that's the man. Now, other guys get the majority of the. Well, hang on. Let me finish my point. Right. Other teams will have guys that get the lion's share of the carries, but they're not getting it 20 times a game. They'll have other running backs in their stable. It's not like it was back in the 80s when you knew that Billy Sims was the only guy going to carry the football. Walter Payton was the only guy carrying the football. And that carried on into the 90s with Barry Sanders and Emmitt Smith and all that, right? The league has changed dramatically over the last 10 years where they use multiple running back sets now, and there just aren't guys around that carry it 20 times a game.
Well, there was more than one running back that carried it 20 times a game. Ezekiel Elliott also carried it over 20 times a game. He just didn't play a full 16-game slate. Then the rest, it's true that 20 times a game.
So we're at 2.
Right, but 20 times a game is a rarity. I agree with you on that. But to say that there's guys that only one guy that carried the load, which is what you said, McCoy, Melvin Gordon, Gurley, those guys carried the load for their team and really carried the load for their team. They just didn't average 20 carries a game. The league has gone to more of a running back by committee, and it's not the horse kind of league. I guess the question is, if you're going to draft a running back in the first round, does it have to be justified by giving the guy, he has to be good enough to want to give it to him 20 times a game, don't you think?
I certainly think you would want a guy that you want all guys on your team to have that mentality. I want to be the guy. I want to be the guy. Create that competition. I think if the Lions draft, let's say they draft Geis in the first round.
Yep.
Would I expect him to carry the ball 20 times a game? No.